Domain Dave, cheapwinefinder.com, with another wine review. Today we've got an $8.99 Trader Joe's French wine. It's the Chateau Chinon 2023. If you see Chinon on the label, well, that means it's a Cabernet Franc. Chinon's a very famous town in the Loire Valley of France, and in the vineyards surrounding that town, they make Cabernet Franc wines. Cabernet Franc is also the third grape used in Bordeaux. Bordeaux's basically the interplay of Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot, but most of those wines add some Cabernet Franc to it, and occasionally Cabernet Franc is the one and only grape in those wines. So this is an AOP wine, which is the top standard. There is higher standards inside AOP, but this wine conformed to all the rules and regulations for the vineyards and in production. La Chateau is the negotiant brand for GCF Group JP Chinette. They're the largest exporter of French wines. They're a huge group. Being a negotiant, their website, part of it's in French, and so I don't know much about what they're saying, but they deal with 450 vineyards and 100 different domains or wineries. So a negotiant buys excess wine, excess grapes, gets it for a lower price and doesn't tell them who they get it from, and then they sell it for a really good price. This is $8.99 because Trader Joe's also sells it for a really good price because they're basically a grocery store who's also a wine shop. So the groceries, at one time, the wine brought in people to the grocery stores and what have you. So this is a kind of a fancy place for Cabernet Franc. A little Cabernet Franc history, way back when, and I don't think I'd be sure exactly when, but they crossed Cabernet Franc with Sauvignon Blanc, and the offspring was Cabernet Sauvignon. So Cab Franc is a very old grape, and everybody, I think Cabernet Sauvignon has kind of passed it by, but it's still here, and it's still a good wine, and it's still the wine of Chinon. Yeah, I intentionally didn't put Cabernet Franc on the title because you're supposed to know if it's Chinon, that's what it is. I mean, it's one of those things, if you see the name, okay, now I get what it is. Prosecco, that's the sparkling wine from Veneto. It's that type of thing. I'm going to have a sip. There was a time when Cabernet Franc was a tannic wine. It was actually used as a blending wine to give structure to wine. If it was a year where in France or in Bordeaux, when the Cabernet Sauvignon, the Merlot were really not that structured, they'd add this and it'd tighten everything up. Now it's a spicy wine. It's got good red fruit. It's got really nice, good slap of spice on it, which is kind of nice. It's a fun wine. There's Cabernet Franc can have a little bit of green pepper in there, and this one has a hint. You don't get it all the time, but sometimes you take a sip and you go, there's a little bit of, because you get black pepper and you get that type of thing, but here you get green pepper too. Take another sip. There's raspberry, there's blackberry, there's soft plum, some blueberry. It's a nice wine. I mean, this is more of a Netflix wine than it is fine dining. You could, of course, comfort food would go really, really well with this. And you could actually have a steak with it. I mean, that kind of thing too. You could do it, but it's place is probably watching, serial killer documentaries on Netflix than that, which is perfectly fine because there needs to be wine for that. You can't sit there that perfectly straight. It'll drive you crazy. So there you go. This is a actual Chinon at $8.99. A good entryway. I mean, they don't typically sell for $8.99. And Chinon is a really great way to try out Cabernet Franc because it is a very drinkable, very good Cabernet Franc. And this is a good way to go. And this is from, a big wine, French wine producer. We don't know which actual domain, as they call them, made this wine and what La Chateau did to it. Because sometimes they add a little something or whatever. But it doesn't matter. It's a good inexpensive Chinon Cabernet Franc wine from the Loire Valley. Take another sip. Yeah, it's worth buying. It's kind of fun. It's got it's not a Zinfandel, but it's got that good fruit and spice thing going that Zinfandel often has. So if you kind of like that type of thing, you don't always get that from a French wine. So it's kind of fun to get it from this wine because it does have some spiciness to it and it has some good red fruit to it. It doesn't have the most depth and complexity or anything, but it's not a bad wine at all for $8.99. I mean, it's a solid buy. So adios, that's it for me, Domain Dave, cheapwinefinder.com. Like us where you like your podcast. We're going to be going back to try to get some more different sparkling wines and what have you, and maybe try some of Trader Joe's, expensive platinum ones in a couple of days. So adios, keep it cheap, and I'll talk to everybody in a couple of days. Stay warm. Adios.